Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started, so if you can find a comfortable place to sit and, snag yourself a muffin on the way if you'd like. Okay, welcome to our Climate Community Day here at Pima Community College. This is our fourth year of doing an event of this type. This event is in coordination with many other events around the country. It is a climate teach-in nationally that is started by Bard College, and we began by doing the Bard teach-in a few years ago, and every year it has grown to something bigger. And this year we have our biggest event yet. We are so lucky to have a mixture of students here with us today. We have community members representing various environmental nonprofit groups. We have people from the business community who are leaders in sustainability. And we're going to get to hear from a lot of these folks. We'll get to hear from some PCC faculty. After lunch, we have our keynote speaker, who is the author Alison Hawthorne Deming. So we have a pretty full day. We do have lunch around noontime, and so we are really looking forward to getting you all involved. We have, somewhere around here, we'll have it up again in a minute, we have a QR code that leads to our Menti page, and so if you want to ask questions throughout the day, you can access that Menti and ask the questions, and we will, pose them to the panelists. This is also being broadcast, so if you're someone who's watching this asynchronously, you're not in the room with us, you can also use the Menti QR code to ask questions. A few basic logistical things. Again, if you have not registered, if you did not get a badge, we would like you to go outside and make sure that you register and get a name tag. There are bathrooms. If you go out this door and just kind of go straight down the hall across from you, there are bathrooms there. And then if you go down by the library, there's some bathrooms there. There's also a water fountain in this direction if anyone needs water. I'm trying to think if there's any other basic logistical things that I need to share with you. I think that mostly covers it. So when we think about our role in the community as the community college, the idea that we can get so many different people from various walks of life in our city to come here, think about climate, think about sustainability, and work together, share ideas. It's wonderful to be this sort of clearinghouse for thoughts, ideas, information, enthusiasm. If you look around the room, you can see that we have some artwork from Crystal McKenna's climate action classes, so you can see what some of our students are up to. This mixture of people of different backgrounds, ages, industries, this is a way that we get to share perspectives and get other ideas. And of course, because we are here in Tucson, Arizona at Pima Community College, we have to remember that the land that we're on is the ancestral land of the Tohono O'odham and Pasquayaqui people. And we also like to remember that we are living in a community with many varieties of species. We are humans, but we are only one of the residents of this ecosystem. We have many other residents who were here before us, and we have to share our world with them. So I would like to get us started by inviting our Director of Sustainability, Phil Berry, up, and he's going to introduce our first panel. Oh, by the way, I'm Eric Aldrich. I guess I should introduce myself, too. Nice to meet y'all.
And if you look at the sheets on your tables, there's two sides to them. One is the QR code to the agenda, but the back is the list of sustainability classes that are run here. And I say that in terms of the CAS classes and classes that are specifically around climate change, and Eric's class on literature and the environment. We have more than 25 of our classes that we offer have some aspect of sustainability written into them. So I don't want to undersell the fact that you can come here and get a good education in sustainability that isn't necessarily just climate action and sustainability. But those CAS classes are new, they're great, they're in demand. It's a show of how the world is progressing despite what goes on publicly, that there remains a high level of demand for sustainability and climate education. And to that point, whenever we do these things, one of the things we're always after is trying to draw in more younger people. Been doing this for a very long time, for over 45 years, and consistently people who show up to talk about climate action and sustainability look like me. But what is great and what we wanted to start today focused on is the fact that there's a lot more younger people taking action in the community. And two of them are going to come talk now. They're going to talk about this. The Arizona Youth Climate Coalitions work with Tucson Unified School District to create their climate action resolution. So I'm going to invite to the stage Oja Sengi and Owen Broussard. So their bios are in the agenda, but Ojas is a U of A student and Owen is a TUSD high school student.
Awesome, thank you for inviting us and for that introduction. Hello everyone, great to meet you all. Hope you all are doing well. So my name is Ojas.
My name is Owen.
We are the Tucson co-leads of the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition, and we'll be telling you guys about our work with the Tucson Unified School District to get them to adopt a climate action resolution. So my name is Ojas, Tucson co-lead of AZYCC.
My name is Owen. I'm also the other Tucson co-lead of AZYCC. As he mentioned earlier, I'm actually a student at Tucson Unified School District. I don't know how many of you guys graduated from this district, but I go to University High, so right on Broadway, right there. Let's see, next, okay. First, just a little bit about our organization. If you wanna, there's a perfect, so to start out, kind of who are we? So our mission, you can read it right there, but generally we're a statewide organization and we work for climate action. We have different chapters in different cities. So we have one in Phoenix, one in Tucson, and then a few spread across the state. But generally, these are some of our hows. So through direct action, mutual aid, education, civic engagement, policy and lobbying, and so much more. What we're gonna talk about today is part of our policy and lobbying.
So we were founded back in 2019 during the youth climate movement. Both of us joined AZYCC after it was founded, so we were not there for the founding of it. So you know, it lives beyond just any one leader. We are, as much as we can, a horizontally organized group. So we don't have like a president or something. We have city chapters. The city chapters have leads. We have teams of policy, of outreach. Those people have leaders. But everyone works together. We don't have one person who calls the shots. Around 80 members, 30 in Tucson. For the TUSD climate action resolution, during that process, I was pretty much the only college student. Everyone else was in high school. So it is very much young people writing this. Also, one of the points of our pride is that we are entirely youth-led. So there's no adult mentor, no like adult sponsor or anything. I'm going to talk a little bit later about intergenerational climate action and the importance of that. But we as an org take pride in being entirely youth-led and youth-run.
Yeah, so here's kind of a history of our past actions. So in 2020, we started out, kind of one of our first few actions was lobbying mayor and council to declare a climate emergency. We also lobbied to pass the EV readiness roadmap just 2 years later. And then the year after that, based on some of our actions that we did earlier, the city of Tucson adopted their climate action plan, and we were officially named as an official partner. And then the next year, we had our climate strike and climate summit. So we had leaders from across the city, across the state, and even nationally that came to our summit and talked about climate action on a panel with youth. And then just very soon, we engaged with the governor's office, Pima County, and then finally TUSD to work with different climate action plans and get climate action across the state.
Yeah, and one point on that climate summit, we were very intentional about platforming youth, right? We've been to a lot of climate summits, and then it's kind of rare for a youth to be up on stage and be talking and to be platformed like that. So the panels that we organized, we had state senators and representatives of federal representatives on the panel, and right next to them, we had high schoolers sharing that same stage, getting as much time to speak, so being very intentional about uplifting those voices. So now a bit about the resolution itself. You want to give the high-level timeline?
Yeah. So this is kind of the high-level timeline of our resolution. So just for a little bit of context, it was October, right, was the final passage. We passed the most comprehensive school climate action resolution ever passed in a district in the United States. So, yeah, round of applause for that. But you can see kind of how long this process took. It took about 16 months to actually get it from its initial steps of meeting with board members back in that first step of summer of 2023 to finally the passage in October of 2024. So you can kind of see how we went through it. So we started out meeting with some of the board members on the TUSD school board. We kind of got some ideas from them. Then we had a lot of internal meetings. And eventually we created this kind of 30-page long document of all our policy priorities based on research that different people did within our organization. And then we moved on to refining this later and then bringing it to a first read for the board. And then they kind of liked some pieces, didn't like some pieces. We entered in a lot of internal talks with them, and then finally got it to a finished piece and then passed back in October. And we'll go more into depth about all these different pieces.
So just to back up a bit before the passage and the process of that, why did we do this and how did we get the idea to do this? What led to this happening? So it was a confluence of circumstances. One of the most important parts is that this was very much informed and a direct result of all of the past work that we've done in the community. We were very involved with the Climate Action Plan, and the City of Tucson had that plan in place. It was adopted, and they were doing the work to implement it. The summer of 2023, I got a scholarship from the CCL Tucson, Citizens Climate Lobby Tucson, to go to the National DC conference. And over there were a lot of people talking about school electrification and school climate action. And then that's when I was like, okay, this is a cool thing to do, and I think I could do this back in Tucson. Clearly, people care about this at the national level, and I met people from California and from Florida and from all over the country doing this kind of work. I was like, that's pretty cool. And then, so I came home, I started doing some research, and I saw that, there were draft templates out there written already. They were, Rewriting America had a 5-page toolkit on how to do this. Denver Public Schools was a school district that had done something similar. They had a toolkit on how to do this. So people around the country and around the world had made resources, and then that also led us to think, okay, this is a place where we could make an impact. Add to that, as we started to work on the resolution, TUSD passed a bond. So in November of 2023, voters in the TUSD district approved TUSD for a $480 million bond to be spent over 10 years. So that's $500 million to be spent on infrastructure and capital improvements. So buying new buses, energy efficiency improvements, building retrofits, all the things that we need to do anyways to retrofit and electrify our buildings, they now have the money for. And we didn't, put that bond, we didn't propose that bond. We did a little bit of campaigning to help it get passed, but that was very much something that they were already doing and something that happened, and now they got the money, and it happened to dovetail very nicely with our resolution. And so we're very upfront with the fact that that was a very big part of this, that we didn't have any direct hand, but it just happened to work out, and we were able to capitalize on that action.
Yeah, so now with that $480 million bond, they're going to be replacing all the HVAC systems across the district. All these different small pieces that now that we pass this climate action resolution, they're going to take climate into account when they're replacing all these systems.
Yeah. And then we chose, just to go back to the last slide really quick, we chose TUSD over other schools because I went to TUSD, Owen went to TUSD, and it's the largest district, school district in the city. The numbers are up there. And so to start off with this, like, none of us knew what we were doing. Like, how do you get a district to pass a climate action resolution? So we reached out to the board members. We were assisted by Councilmember Kevin Dahl, who is in the audience, somewhere here today. And we met with the first 2 board members, and they were like, yeah, this is cool. There's 5 board members. They're like, yeah, this is cool. So we got that support. We met with the 3rd board member, Dr. Ravi Shah, and he was like, yeah, this is awesome. So we presented them a draft template for electrification only. So electrify your buildings, electrify your transportation. And Ravi was like, let's do more. Like, let's talk about food, let's talk about water, let's talk about, the money you're going to save. And we were like, yeah, let's do that. And so then we started to do this whole process of making a new resolution. We were like, okay, if we're going to make it comprehensive, let's make it the most comprehensive in the country. Like, let's talk about scope 1, 2, scope 3 emissions. Let's make a resolution that talks about climate adaptation that is very specific to the Southwest, that talks about heat, that talks about water. And one thing, and I said I was going to come back to this, but the intergenerational aspect of this is super, super crucial, right? Like, we're entirely youth-led, we're youth doing climate action to save our own futures. But this wouldn't be possible if the people on the board weren't supportive, if we weren't connected to the people on the board by another adult, if we didn't have adults in the community supporting us. And so climate action has to be intergenerational.
Yeah, and let's talk about, just briefly mentioned earlier, but let's talk about why this is so comprehensive. So a lot of climate action resolutions now are using scopes 1, 2, and 3 of emissions. So the scope 1 is the direct emissions, and that's what you think about normally when you're thinking about a school district. That's going to be your emissions from your buses, your emissions on site, anything like that. But with our climate action resolution, we took into account these other scopes. So scope 2 is going to be your process of energy generation. So all the energy that TUSD uses, all that carbon emissions that comes with that. And then scope 3.
That's basically all the energy that they buy from TEP, 80% of which is coal and gas.
Exactly. And then scope 3 is going to be everything upstream and downstream of TUSD. So that mostly is like how much carbon it takes to make the food that all the students eat in all the schools, and how much carbon it takes to make the building materials that they use to make the buildings, things like that.
And so scope 3 is like really, really complex and really large, and like the inclusion of scope 3 is what makes this resolution the most comprehensive, because it's so hard to zero out. Like, your scope 3 emissions are the emissions that that occur when you cut down a tree and move it so you can make it into a table, right? How do you, as a school district, zero that out? Well, your scope 3 emissions of that table are the scope 1 emissions of the table-making company, right? And so it has to be an economy-wide transformation. So most governments, most school districts don't commit to scope 3, but at TUSD, they were ready to.
Exactly. And then here are some of the greater details. So we broke down this resolution into 2 different parts: climate mitigation and climate adaptation. So that first part is climate mitigation. That's reducing everything that we talked about with the 3 scopes. So the commitments that they made were 50% emissions cut by 2030, and then 100% net zero by 2040. And those are amazing goals. We wrote them in the resolution. They're there. And then climate adaptation is, as we've realized that our climate is adapting, we need to adapt to meet that. So we put in there things about heating and grid, water, different education pieces that we also talked about in the school district, so educating our students. And we also talked about funding and equity. So how are we going to pay for this? And then also, how do we make sure that it's being equitably distributed across the district?
So I can talk a bit more about the research process, because that was definitely the longest and the hardest part of this. We have this opportunity to write this really comprehensive document that we know has a really good chance of passing, but we're not sure it's going to pass. And it's in this place where we want to put as much as we can in it, and it's less about like what do we not include, and more about trying to ensure that we don't forget to include something, or we don't realize that we should have included something. So we very much, we started off again with electrification of transport and buildings, and clean energy is an easy thing to throw in there. And then we tried to expand the way we thought and think a lot about intersectionality. So we're talking about climate, like how does that impact health? How does that impact education? How can we build in those larger scale impacts into this resolution? What does the language for that look like? What is the guidance out there on that? And so we made, our initial draft was like a 30-page document. We had to cut that down to 8 pages, which is a painful process. We had our entire team, we set up this like relatively complex structure in this app called Notion. We broke up the research into big ideas. Those big ideas had sub-research areas that people looked into. And then we also had a big repository of all the documents that we looked at. So we didn't want 5 people to read the same guidance from the EPA and then come to their own conclusions about that and write about it 5 separate times. We were like, okay, we can put that document in this database, and then one person reads it, makes the notes on it, and everyone else can go look at that. And so we accumulated, I don't know if I have it on here, but probably over 150 documents that we looked at in total to make this resolution.
Yeah, we're looking through it, because right now we're actually going back through those documents, which we'll talk about in a second. We were looking through it, and we found like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words that we had written, like hundreds of documents. It was crazy. Okay, next we'll talk about some of the outreach that we did, because this was one of the most important pieces that we did through this resolution. So we reached out to a lot of national groups because this has a national impact. Again, something that we'll talk about later, but we reached out to New Buildings Institute, and they've been incredible allies throughout the process. They work for building electrification and reduction of emissions across the country, and we're actually speaking at their national conference in how many weeks? 3 weeks, 2 weeks, something like that. We also reached out to the World Resources Institute, which is a global organization that does stuff with electrification. We actually worked with their school bus initiative, and then we made a video that's now on their website. We also worked with Rewiring America. We actually got a meeting with the White House Office of Climate Policy last year.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Undaunted K-12. Citizens Climate Lobby, national, but the local chapter should be here somewhere. Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and then we did a lot of press work once this got passed and like in our final stages. So we got in Fast Company, Bill McKibben, if you know him, he wrote about us in his newsletter, and a bunch of Arizona outlets.
And something I want to point out here, and again, I'll probably touch on this again later, but we started off as like, an Arizona-based group. Both of us are like, Tucson students. And we were, connected locally. Like we knew that this would have an impact on the local level. But we had no guarantee, and I had no idea that anyone up there at the national level would care about this, right? Like why would advocates and policy people in DC care about what I'm doing in this corner of the country? And so these emails that I sent out were cold emails, and I was not expecting anyone to ever respond. And never was I expecting them to help us as much as they did. The WRI paid for me to go speak at a conference. NBI is paying us to go speak at the conference. Undaunted K-12 connected us with their comms strategy group that they work with, and then they worked pro bono and got us into 20 press outlets. And so this is we never expected that amount of support and that amount of encouragement from people up there. So just an important point of people in the climate community really do care and really want to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And our Tucson community supported us a ton too. You can see here, city leadership, local climate change experts. I'm sure there are some people in the room who have supported us along the way. Students and teachers. I know I reached out to all my teachers, and they all gave out our student outreach form to every student that they knew. Rotary, CCL, Sustainable Tucson, you can list the organizations, but pretty much every climate-oriented nonprofit gave us some help along the way.
So on that topic of community outreach, we were very intentional about making sure that this resolution and this process wasn't just, our group doing our thing and pushing it through. We wanted to make sure that it was grounded in the community, that the community's needs and wants were reflected and priorities were reflected in this document, not only to make the document a good document and be good policy, but also from the side of optics and from the side of political games, being able to show to the TUSD board and be able to show to the press and all that the community wants this. You know, this isn't just a bunch of high schoolers trying to get this through. People across the city want this. So we did a large community outreach drive. We wrote a community letter of support, and we circulated it. In total, we got over 160 signatories on that letter. That was elected officials, it was community groups, national groups, and then lots of just individual people and lots of individual students as well. And we sent that letter to the board members, and on the day of the vote, we organized a lot of people to show up there in person. We got t-shirts, we got banners, and that's that picture down there.
Yeah, you can see down there, that's our photo from the board meeting. The board members said it was the most students they'd ever seen at a board meeting in their entire career serving. So that was just really amazing. I did a lot of the student outreach. I reached out to my friends. We had students from a few different schools represented from across the district. It was really great. Next, let's talk about our obstacles, the most exciting piece.
So policy research was hard, and there were a lot of things that we tried to do that didn't work. We waffled around for weeks, if not months, and it took 16 months to get this done for a reason. So here are a couple of things that we should have done, maybe that we didn't do, and then we're trying to take these learnings and tell it to other students and other youth across the country, trying to do similar school climate action processes to help inform them. All these are like really specific lessons learned, and we try to be really intentional and very transparent about the fact that we didn't do a perfect job. There were a lot of things we could have done better, a lot of things we should have done better, and we're trying to use that to help other people.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for us was getting high school students to do complex policy research and then writing it into a document. If you can imagine, asking random high schoolers to do that was a little bit difficult. But eventually we figured it out. Definitely working with school board politics was a little bit difficult too. Definitely the meeting where the school board members said, that 30-page document, we're never going to be able to pass that. We need that to be 1/3 of its size. That was definitely devastating to us. But yeah, we got over it and eventually got passed.
One of the biggest reasons for the delay was a fiscal analysis, probably one of the things that gave us the biggest headaches. So before the passage of the resolution, the board wanted a fiscal analysis and a cost-benefit analysis of the resolution. And we were trying to convey to them that the district didn't have the staff or the capacity to do this. They needed to hire a team of economists to get this done. And that's what the city did for their climate action plan. It took professional economists multiple months to get a cost-benefit analysis. But they tried to do it anyways, and then the passage, so the first read was in April, and then it was supposed to pass all the way in May, but then that got delayed indefinitely over the summer because they wanted to do this fiscal analysis. Eventually they landed at a number around $900 million, and then they hadn't even begun to consider the cost savings of energy, of food, of waste, of all these things. So luckily now they just issued an RFP to get an outside expert to come in and do this analysis. But this is another one of those obstacles that we couldn't foresee coming in and messing things up.
Exactly. Next, let's talk about its current status. So as Otis just mentioned, the district just issued their RFP for an outside financial analyst and hopefully someone to make the final refined version with every individual goal that we need in this plan. I'm also on the Bond Oversight Committee now. I'm the first student to ever serve on a TUSD committee, which is very interesting.
And just to emphasize that point, the Bond Oversight Committee is overseeing that $500 million of money I mentioned earlier, and it's a dozen people. So Owen is one of a dozen people helping oversee and spend that much money. So we're not just passing policy and saying, oh, we're going to do this. We have youth in positions of power spending that money and moving that money forward.
Yeah, TUSD had to change the rules to allow someone who's under 18 to serve on any committee. And then this next piece here is what we're actually working on a lot now. So it's developing a toolkit for other school districts to do what we did here in Tucson. So right now we're actually working with a team of graduate students from the U of A to develop this toolkit, write it out, and then we also got an agreement with Climate Matters, right? What is it called? The organization, Al Gore's nonprofit?
Oh, Climate Reality Project.
Climate Reality Project, which was started by Al Gore. and they have a bunch of school chapters across the country, and they'll distribute our toolkit to different local organizations.
And just to like elaborate on that a little bit more, there were like a few toolkits out there when we started our process, and they helped us a lot, but they were all super high level, right? They're like, this is how you find out where the board meeting is, and this is how you make a team, and this is like, you talk about this kind of a policy in there. And that's like very helpful, but what we think we can provide is a toolkit that is very, very clear about, like, we're not going to tell you like generic high-level advice. We're going to tell you exactly what we did over 16 months. Here's what we did month by month by month. Here's who we talked to. Here's how we have like 20 different versions of the resolutions. Here's the differences between each one and why we made that change. So be very clear and very specific about what we did, and that'll hopefully provide insight to other students out there trying to do something similar.
And also, we've already started our work working with other school districts, even within our organization. We're currently working with Phoenix. I don't know, do you know this? But one of the school board members actually reached out to me and was like, you guys, I'm making a session at the National Association of School Board Members, and you guys can talk on a panel to all these school board members from across the country about creating a climate action resolution in your own district. Okay, last piece.
Most important piece. Our entire session up here is useless if you guys don't also go and take action. We can be up here, we can talk all day long, but this has to be a group effort. We need everyone to do this. So that's a QR code to our website that has more information about everything we've done. Our emails and our link is on the next slide. But we just really hope that you guys leave from this inspired to do something similar and take action in your community as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's contact info, anything like that if you want to get involved. Also, we're going to have a table out there, so if you guys want to visit our table, talk to us more. But yeah, also those are our emails.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. So I have a few questions for you in terms of going from this really high overview of everything you've done, which is amazing. And is everybody feeling the climate hope in this room now? Do we feel a little bit of climate hope from these guys? That's hard sometimes, but you guys did it. Thank you so much. So I have a few questions for the audience, and you guys can chime in the little comment on the bottom of your Menti. You can ask some questions as well. I'm going to start it off, and just if you could share with us how this process helped you learn as a person, or what you learned from the process, and how you feel different coming out of it than you did before.
Go. So it was a very long process, right? 16 months. I started this just after my freshman year of college, and I finished it halfway through my junior year of college. A lot changed in that time. I think two biggest things I've come away learnings about myself. First is a really deep feeling of individual empowerment. I know that I can make change. I know I can do stuff. I know that I'm just, a student in Tucson in the corner of the country, but I can make stuff happen, and I can get recognized for that. And second, I think, is knowing that I can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? It's really, really hard and really overwhelming to think about trying to make change and also balance school and also, have a social life and all these things. But I was able to do it all and then some. And I think that's really empowering to know that I can do lots of things. I need to push myself. It's hard. But I have that capacity, I have that ability, and that's just a very, very freeing thing to know.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of echo what O just said. Definitely empowering myself, especially as a high schooler. There are not very many high schoolers that are pushing through real policy change in their district, even across the country right now. So being able to tell my story as someone in that position has been really, really empowering to me. And I've gotten to speak to students from different districts across the country about similar action that they've been doing, and I've been able to tell my story. Again, yeah, also balancing things, that was definitely tough for me, especially being a full-time student at UHS, which if you guys know that school, it's not exactly easy. That school plus yeah, balancing social life, everything else. So yeah, I don't know. Also teamwork. That's been fun.
Fantastic. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. I know you guys talked about some of the obstacles. Can you share a time where you felt really discouraged and maybe almost wanted to give up or didn't think that this was really going to happen, and how you worked through that and how you came out the other side?
The hardest time was probably the research process. That took, I don't know, maybe half a year, something more. And like looking back on it, like those were the dark days, right? Like we're just out here trying to do all this research. We have no idea if it's going to pass or not. We have no idea if we're on the right track. And it's like, it's really, that's one of those moments where it's like I'm doing all this work, like no one's telling me to do it. I think it's worth it, but I don't know, like this might all be a waste of time. But what kept me going was knowing that like I had an opportunity there to do something meaningful. Like I had a really unique chance to make change that I know is moving the needle, actually. I know it's gonna be impactful, I know it's gonna affect so many people, and I know that I can be the one to do it. And I also know that if I don't do it, then it might not happen. And I'm in this unique position of actually being able to move that needle, and that kept me going.
Yeah, I feel like the darkest day for me was actually, I hike the Grand Canyon every year, so in a week I'm gonna hike the Grand Canyon. But last year, at this exact same time, I was coming back from the Grand Canyon, I get a call from Otis, and he's like, Owen, the district just did their financial analysis and it's not looking good. It looks like they put 100 people doing compost for like one school on their financial analysis. And so I called him the whole bus ride, him and one other person who was working on the project. And we kind of pivoted. We were gonna talk to the district, see what the next steps were. And that was definitely the darkest day, but I feel like we came back from it so strong. We completely redid our whole like way of working. We transitioned from the Notion as we had it, and we made it into an Eisenhower matrix, and we had every piece. We got everything done. We were super organized. So I feel like we came back from this dark day even stronger than we were before.
Yeah, I remember at the end of the summer when the fiscal analysis stuff was happening and the district is not talking to us, we come back and like people, like other people in AZYC are asking me like, is this TUSD thing happening or not? And I'm like, I think it is. Like, let's try and make it happen. But yeah.
Thank you, guys. So sometimes the national landscape gets more attention than local issues, but as we've heard, this plan has made a massive impact on our community. What advice do you have for those wishing to direct their energy in engaging in climate action here at the local level?
So national stuff gets a lot of attention, but Tucson has a really unique, like the space in Tucson is really open to people coming in and trying to make climate action possible. Even as democracy is being weakened and the rule of law and due process might not exist soon, we can still work on improving on saving our environment and saving our own lives by working in our community. When that kind of federal level governance gets eroded, that's when we need our communities and we need our local support system the most.
Yeah, I want to echo what he said. I deleted all my news apps yesterday because I was getting too many push notifications about the current administration. But I think, yeah, really focusing on local issues is what we need to do right now. I always tell people two things. I tell people, get involved. So join a local organization. I know you guys will see those all out there. And then vote. So register to vote. I don't know if you guys live in CD07, but we're going to have a congressional election soon. So register to vote. Do all that you can. Also, everything is climate. Everything has an effect on the environment. So just be conscious of that. And that's what our resolution is about, is taking climate into account in every decision.
I have one more for you guys, and then we're going to go to the Q&A on the slides here. So along those same lines, there's been such a large mental health burden recently to stay informed. It's like you read my mind. And not get paralyzed, and also not lose oneself in the process of standing up for a better future. So what are some ways that you have found to take care of yourself so that you can continue to participate in this space?
So I do a lot of things that are not political related or not climate related at all. You know, I need lots of time to be completely disconnected from that space. One of the most important things for me is my creative outlet of like theater. I've done theater since 4th grade, and currently at the U of A, I'm part of an improv comedy group called Comedy Corner, the oldest collegiate improv comedy group in the country. But so every Wednesday night, we just have improv comedy shows. And it's, you know, I forget about climate stuff for the most part, and I'm just there making people laugh, like with my friends around me up on stage. And it's like really healing, and I'm in this really unique space trying to create joy and trying to create happiness and laughter. And I think, you know, building that support system of maybe a creative outlet is that support system for you, and or having friends, having communities around you that you can lean on and rely on no matter what's happening to the environment and to our politics. That's super, super crucial.
Yeah, I went to the Improv Comedy Club. It's actually really, really amazing. But yeah, I would like to say, I think that my friends have been my greatest support system. A lot of my friends actually hate politics and they hate getting involved in politics as much as I try to convince them. But it's super relaxing to have friends that I can talk to about my life, everything that's going on. Also, I love rock climbing. If you know me, I love getting in the outdoors. I love rock climbing. I love hiking. Like I said, I'm hiking the Grand Canyon this week. I'm leaving Friday. But yeah, getting in the outdoors for me is my outlet.
Thank you. Okay, we have a few from the audience. So it says 16 months is a remarkably short amount of time to do this sort of thing. I think you should reframe the 16-month timeline as an accomplishment. I don't know if you have any response to that, but I think that's more kudos than anything else.
I have a funny comment. One of the news articles that was written about me, or about the resolution, the author like went and like they found out I was 20 years old, and then she went and calculated how many months old I was, and then she wrote, "This resolution took up 7% of my lifetime." So.
I love that. 7% well spent. Okay. Otis, you mentioned that you were sponsored to visit Washington, D.C. by CCL. What was that before the TUSD agreement started? How did it help support your work and vision, and how did it impact you?
Honestly, in many ways, like that CCL scholarship and going to their conference is the reason this entire DC or this entire TUSD resolution happened. Like I was thinking about, you know, school stuff anyways. Like I was thinking about the city was doing work, the county was doing work. What are the other levers of change that I can pull on in Tucson to make something happen? So I was thinking, I was in the headspace, and then I go to DC, I see other people doing school stuff. I was like, wait, like that's an opportunity for action in Tucson. And so that got me thinking about TUSD, and then I continued that when I got home. But so like in many ways, like thank CCL and their scholarship for this thing happening.
Thank you. Okay, here's one that's right up your alley, Otis. Did you ever utilize or consider utilizing artificial intelligence to organize your research information and the policies you were deciding on? This maybe could have helped with that 30-page document.
We did use a lot of AI during this process. We have a lot of text to process. Owen might be able to speak on that more.
We tried to summarize all our documents the other day with AI. It did not work.
Yeah.
We paid, how much did you pay?
Oh, I paid like $10 in like API credits.
Yeah, he paid $10 and it did not summarize very well, so.
But when we were like, you know, in trying to summarize a 30-page document into 8 pages, you know, we used AI to like, how do we make this shorter? How do we rephrase this? Like go find me sources on this sort of a policy thing. So it was a useful tool for sure. But in the end, like every word there was written by a human.
Yeah. The final resolution we definitely wrote by ourselves, but I think also with people's individual research, they like, a lot of people had trouble writing into like policy-friendly language. They could find the research, but like most of the high schoolers, the best like policy writing experience that they had was making slides that go up in front of their class. So I think kind of getting it into that refined state that we can actually put it into that document and write it out was, I think people, used AI for.
Looking for the light. Okay. What is your strategy for setting up membership at new schools where you don't yet have students involved?
I can talk on that. A lot of what I've actually been doing, well, especially when I was trying to get students to sign on to the resolution, is I was DMing their student councils on Instagram and being like, hey, do you want to distribute this action resolution? And then I framed it as, this is entirely student-led. Would you please fill it out? So that was a main way. Also, the way that I got recruited to our organization specifically was through Cyclovia, which was last weekend. So different community events we'll have a table at, and we'll talk to kids about, we frame it a lot around, like, what are your concerns about the environment? This is a way to get involved.
Also, a lot of schools will have some sort of environmental group, and so we get in contact with them, and then they kind of act as like an unofficial outreach partner. UHS has the Climate Action Union, which isn't officially affiliated with AZYCC, but we do a lot of outreach via that channel.
Yeah, and we're kind of still working. We tried to start a club program where we give out materials to clubs about things that they can do, and we give them support sometimes. I know I've worked a lot with clubs in different school districts in different school districts about what to do at their March meeting or whatever. So I'll talk to them about that. So we offer support there.
We appreciate it, guys. We have a little token of appreciation, so I'm going to hand it over to Phil. Thank you guys so much. There we go. Cheese. All right, this is Phil Berry, our Director of Sustainability.
I just want to say thanks. Is it obvious why we invited them? I mean, right? Is it obvious why they're first? I mean, if you're like me and you're getting concerned about the future of sustainability, the future of climate, right? I mean, it's sort of a duh, right? I mean, they're here, they're going to do this. My kids are doing the same thing in the parts of the world where they live. So one of the things I wanted to mention, you notice that CCL showed up a lot, right? I mean, CCL is Citizens Climate Lobby. The Tucson branch, the Tucson chapter of CCL is possibly the most organized chapter of CCL in the nation. There's 250,000 members of CCL around the country. Their table is right outside that back door. For 4 years, they have sent students from U of A and PCC to the conference that Ojas was talking about. We're trying to send more this year. They sent it with their own money for the first several years. And we are in partnership between PCC and CCL. So this coming Saturday, in the Azurite room, which is on the other side of this same campus, on the 3rd floor, we're having a meeting at 10? 10. So up 9:30 for some coffee, talk to some people, meet some nice people, talk about climate, and every second Saturday of the month, we have a meeting, a climate action meeting with this partnership between PCC and the Tucson chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby. And if you think about what impact that they're having, here. So thank you all very much. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it a lot.
All right, we are transitioning to our community spotlight time. During this time, we are going to ask the organizations that we said we're spotlighting at 10 a.m. to kind of line up on the side of the room here. So we're gonna cycle us through pretty quickly here. This is an opportunity to hear a little teaser from each organization that has a table represented for our lunchtime tabling time. So they're gonna come up, they're gonna give you a little elevator speech and maybe even give you a book recommendation of something they feel like everyone should read. So we're gonna just have them introduce themselves, give their little elevator speech, pass on the mic, and we'll just kind of make a little circle here. So you'll come up on this side, come down on that side, and we'll do this again at 12 o'clock with a different set of organizations right before we go to lunch. So hopefully we'll get everybody squeezed in. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll get started with Julie.
Hi, everybody. I am Julie Hendricks. I'm here representing JLL. JLL is a global real estate company that I work for, and I am a sustainability consultant and an architect. I have an awesome job. I work for a company with over 100,000 people, and we have made climate commitments for decarbonization by 2040. Real estate has a huge impact on the climate. Real estate is responsible for over 40% of carbon emissions. And my company is a part of the change. If you're interested in focusing in a real estate career, I would love to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrea Herr, and I'm with the Great Old Broads for Wilderness. Woo! Woo! Yeah, and you can call me Dre. So we like to say broadness is a state of mind. Don't think it's just a bunch of old ladies, because it's not. We got broads and bros and anybody that wants to join us. So we focus on hyper-local issues here in Tucson. Our big focus right now is the Copper World mine down in the Santa Rita Mountains, which is a huge environmental travesty. Hudbay is a foreign mining company and will be taking 20% of Tucson's water in the next 5 years. So if you want to know more, I'm out on the, underneath the shade here, and happy to talk to anybody about it. It's a big issue.
Thank you, Dre.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brad DeMedio, and I'm with the Living Desert Alliance. And what we are a centralized hub supporting all of the organizations throughout Pima County. So you can go to one spot and you can click on, actually, the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition. We have a link to them. We have a link to the Old Broads. We have links to everybody. And from there also, you can contact your representatives and your political leaders here and voice your opinions. And newspapers, we have links to everywhere to get our voice out. We also produce a weekly newsletter where we announce things that are going on in the community. Last week, we talked about the Rosemont Barrel Canyon Bio Blitz that the Old Broads are working on. And I love that name, the Old Broads, because I get to say Old Broads. Also, local residents gathered at Sahuarita Town Council to talk about the mine. We talked about Pima County seeks community's input on the climate plan. We also talked about this event coming up. And we talk about things for all organizations so that everybody can get involved and learn a little bit and be educated. So thank you very much for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Brad.
Hello, hello. My name is Neff. I'm with the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area. National Heritage Areas are designated by Congress. We were designated in 2019 and span from Marana all the way to Nogales, Arizona. Beautiful 3,300 square miles along the Santa Cruz River. We are here today because we just want to promote the cultural, historical, and natural importance of the Santa Cruz River and create upcoming new stewards of the community and of the National Heritage Area, and really promote the education of why the National Heritage Area is so important. Please feel free to learn more at our table. Again, the Santa Cruz Valley National Heritage Area. I know it's a mouthful. I have trouble myself sometimes, but yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you, Neff.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Wolke. I'm the director at Desert Survivors. We are a local institution that has been providing supported employment for adults with developmental disabilities in Tucson for 40 years. We get these folks ready for the next step in their job journey by having them run our native plant nursery, which is over on Star Pass. And we also provide landscaping to commercial clients using native plants and helping people transition to xeriscape. We are trying to open our space up and participate more in these climate conversations because people with disabilities are disproportionately impacted by these changes, but yet our voice is almost always missing. So we don't have a table. But we have the spring sale right now, and you don't have to be a member to get a discount. So come buy some plants, get 10% off, see how fabulous we are. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Stoddard. I'm the Director of Conservation and Education at the Reed Park Zoo. And as a conservation organization, our mission is to protect wild animals and wild places. And one way we do that is by supporting conservation programs all over the world. But even closer to home, we also are an example to our community of how you can be a sustainable business. And so we just recently, as of April of last year, were recognized as a green business by Local First Arizona, something that we are very, very proud of. And we do also have a green team, which is a voluntary group of staff members that meet monthly to continue to advance the zoo's sustainability measures. And we just recently upgraded all of our water fixtures throughout the zoo as a result of our water audit through our green business application to save over 600,000 gallons of water per year. And so sustainability, as you know, is an ongoing thing. You're never done. So we're always continuing to look for different opportunities to do that. And additionally, we do have several LEED certified buildings on zoo grounds. One a few years ago, we were designated the first platinum LEED building in Southern Arizona. So this is a way that we're able to be an example to our community and also engage our guests by showing them ways that they can be sustainable as well. And one of the ways we do that is through our interpretive stations and education programs. And so today I have our climate change station out, which is a way that we can engage our guests in talking about climate change, have them understand it, and then also inspire them to take action while using how climate change and other environmental issues are affecting the animals on our planet. So I invite you to stop by. I am just under the breezeway when you walk out, and I look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hello, I am Sophia. I'm the Assistant Director of the Community Engagement Corps with the Southwest Environmental Health Science Center at the U of A. We have about 60 researchers through different colleges doing research on environmental health issues, which is kind of how your body is impacted by exposures. We help translate that into language that people can actually understand, so that's what we do. If you're ever looking to develop some curriculum, if you're ever trying to figure out some outreach materials, if you're ever just trying to get hard data that you want to use in your projects and your work and need some support and some help or to access a researcher and ask questions, that's what we help with. So we're right outside. I'd be happy to talk to you and kind of talk about the work that we do.
Thank you, Sophia.
Hi everyone, my name is Ana Gorla, use she, her pronouns, and I'm with the Sierra Club Grand Canyon chapter. Our environmental organization is nationwide, but I work for the chapter that's here in Arizona, and we focus on all sorts of environmental issues throughout the state. I personally work on promoting clean energy. As you know, we're seeing a lot of attacks to roll back progress this year, so we do have some climate actions you can take at our booth outside. And the other side of my work is protecting public lands from mining threats, trying to promote the permanent protection of places like the Sonoran Desert. So again, we have petitions for that. And my organization, we have a big team. We have a Tucson chapter for those interested in volunteering, going on hikes. We work with a lot of other of the organizations that are up here to protect a lot of the areas around here. And then we also do just fun stuff. We like people to go out and connect with nature and remind ourselves what we're trying to protect. So if you ever just want to go bird watching or clean up or whatever, we offer events like that as well. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Anna.
Good morning. I'm John Murphy. I'm here from Friends of Madeira Canyon. The Friends in Madeira Canyon focus on education, conservation, and protection of the biodiversity and natural habitats in Madeira Canyon. How many people have been to Madeira Canyon? Okay, looks like about a third. If you haven't been to Madeira Canyon, I encourage you to come out. We have a table right outside. I think it's table 2. And Hillary and I will be out there talking to people. We do have a book on the nature of Madeira Canyon written by Doug Moore, who is currently on the board of Friends of Madeira Canyon. And because of the loss of a lot of Forest Service personnel, we're looking to expand our volunteer base to try to replace some of those services that are going to be lost that would normally be supplied by the Forest Service. Madeira Canyon is an absolutely spectacular place. I encourage you to come out and talk to us and come out and visit the canyon. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I love Madeira Canyon, by the way. Hi, everybody. My name is Xochitl, and I work for the City of Tucson's Green Stormwater Infrastructure Program, which is called Storm to Shade. We are right here. And we build and we maintain green stormwater infrastructure, GSI, installations all over Tucson. If you don't know what GSI is, it's basically passive water harvesting landscapes. So if you think of sides of roads after it rains, there's often a lot of water running on the side of the road. We build a landscape so that that water can enter the landscape and irrigate native vegetation. Our cities are hardscapes, so we know we take away a lot of the rain's ability to actually infiltrate into the ground here and in every city, and we have a lot of issues with like stormwater runoff, and it ends up in the washes, and it's very dirty water because it washes all of the pollutants into the washes with it, and green stormwater infrastructure really helps with that because the water infiltrates into the ground there. And the plant roots and the bacteria in the soil help to break down some of the contaminants. So we do it really to add more vegetation to Tucson. We are the 3rd fastest warming city in the country, and we want to add vegetation to help mitigate some of that urban heat island effect. If you are interested in green stormwater infrastructure, want to talk about that, or if you have questions about Tucson Water, which is where our program lives, I will be sitting right out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Katie Predick. I'm a scientist at the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. One of the initiatives we have in science revolves around invasive species in Pima County and Arizona as a whole. For a long time, we've focused quite a bit on bufflegrass, which people are probably familiar with. It increases a lot of the fire risk we have. Right now, we're concerned about a new invasive species that we're seeing increase in abundance in our area called stinknet. It's an unpleasant species. It's named based on the smell. It is unpleasant on your hands. Some people actually have an allergic reaction to it. If you've been up around Phoenix and seen kind of hillsides of yellow, that's often stinknet. So if you want to learn more about that new threat, you can come visit me. We're also beginning a community science initiative from our science department that we call weed mapping. So one of the challenges with invasive species management is where those species are and figuring out kind of how they spread. So what we're asking people to do is if you're around town or if you're hiking, you can use a simple mapping app and just kind of drop a pin and say, hey, I saw this species that's out there, and that'll really help people who are both managing these species and trying to figure out how we can keep them from taking over our area. Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie.
Good morning. My name is Ed Bayshore. I'm a co-leader of the Citizens Climate Lobby here in Tucson. Citizens Climate Lobby is a grassroots, nonpartisan organization dedicated to national as well as local policies on solving the climate crisis. We will sit down and have a conversation with anyone who is interested in having a serious conversation about climate. One of the things that we get often questions when we do our grassroots outreach is, what can I do? And I know that a lot of people walk around wondering about how they can be effective in dealing with climate. And we have what we call NDE, not doing enough. This is this anxiety we have at the end of the day. I can help you solve your NDE problem today. How many here have heard of the Inflation Reduction Act? Okay, about half the room. So the Inflation Reduction Act is the singular most impactful piece of climate legislation that has been passed in the United States. It is enabling the construction of solar and battery technology, all sorts of clean energy technologies with clean energy tax credits that leverage private investment, about a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every dollar the Inflation Reduction Act has put out, about $3 has been spent by private industry. Representative Juan Ciscomani, who represents southeastern Arizona and large parts of Tucson, has twice written the leadership of Congress saying, please do not pull a lot of these energy credits. That's a good thing. And the reason he wants that is because there's about $1.7 billion worth of planned investment in clean energy projects in his district. Most of that in Cochise County, which could really use the economic incentive. So I would ask you to stop by our booth. We're just outside the door on the right. Pick up one of these little quarter pagers, which gives you all the information you need to contact Representative Ciscomani's office and let him know that you support him and that you support the Inflation Reduction Act and you do not want to see it pulled back. That's kind of our big deal right now at Citizens Climate Lobby, and I would appreciate it if all of you would help pitch in, because now is the time to act on this issue. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ed. All right, let's give one more big round of applause to our first half of our community organizations. Thank you. I also just want to give a brief shout out. We have some empty seats up here, so if you don't want to stand, there are a number of chairs around. We would love to have you. Please join in. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Eric.
Okay, so our next speaker is one of us, a Pima Community College member, and we have Dr. Nick Richmond. She's our Chief Strategist and Vice Chancellor of Strategy, Analytics, and Research. Nick has an extensive research and data analysis background that includes analyzing data on lunar and Mars crustal magnetic fields, modeling water flow in nuclear reactors, the application of quantum mechanics and solid-state physics to deep Earth studies, and numerical modeling of coastal environments. She's done a lot of interesting stuff, and now she's with us. Since 2008, she has worked full-time in higher education, research, and planning, leading the strategy, analytics, and research team here at Pima Community College. Nick, welcome.
Hello there, everybody. How are you all doing today? Are you good? Okay, good. Not bad. Maybe have more coffee, I don't know. I feel I have a very tough spot. We've just heard from some wonderful community organizations. We had our fabulous student speakers, and it's like, oh dear, now it's me. How do I follow all of this good stuff? So, how do I get my slides up? Oh, next one. Ooh, okay, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about climate action and sustainability here at Pima. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done, and then I want to use the opportunity to figure out where we go next. I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go along. So I run the strategy, analytics, and research team, as mentioned, which might seem a little random. As you heard, I have a background, though, in geoscience, and I'll kind of explain how sustainability came to be with us. So back in, it was around about spring of 2021, we were developing our next strategic plan. And there was an emerging priority at the institution to focus on climate action. There were a number of key voices in that, partly through administration, lots and lots coming through faculty as well. And we committed to develop a comprehensive climate action plan addressing academics and operations with the long-term goal to halve our carbon footprint by 2030. So this was approved, went into place, and we went about developing our plan. Now, oversight was assigned to the Office of, well, STAR we call it, because our name is really long, Strategy Analytics and Research. It gets tiring after a while. So it was given to STAR, partly because I have a geoscience background. So I was one of the people saying, we need to do something. We have to take action as an institution, because we can both control our own emissions, our own operations, but we have this incredible opportunity as an education organization to educate our students, right? So our students, our graduates can go out into the community as climate positive people. So we formed a cross-college team. Lots and lots of the planning team are here. Raise your hand if you're one of the people who helped develop the plan. Oh, a few people in the back. A few other people, I think, who are too modest to raise their hands. And we engaged in a year-long planning process, having a series of structured conversations to try and figure out what it was we needed to do as an institution to take action. Based on all of this work, we developed the college's first climate action and sustainability plan. It was approved in spring of 2022. We actually recently extended it by a year because we have various transitions in college leadership, and we're embarking on a big long-term planning process. We wanted to align this plan with all of that planning because it's critical, right, that sustainability infuses all of the planning work at the institution and that we keep that in mind as we're figuring out what we're going to do. And we have 4 primary targets within the plan. So the first is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's directly connected to the original priority that led to us develop this in the first place. We also wanted to ensure that every student attending Pima would be exposed to climate action and sustainability within the program in which they study, so that every graduate leaves the institution knowing what it means to be climate neutral or climate positive in the specific area in which they've been trained. This third one, apply for gold certification. It's a little vague in this slide, but we wanted to apply for gold certification from an organization called the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. This is a big nationwide standard, which would be external criteria we could work towards, so we could ensure that we were attaining very high standards in sustainability as an institution, and not just saying we were and patting ourselves on the back, but holding ourselves to somebody else's standard, so we could ensure that we were attaining that high level. And then lastly, we wanted to develop the plan that would get us on the pathway to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030. So these are pretty ambitious goals. We originally had a 3-year timeline. As I mentioned, we extended that by an additional 1. But let me share just a little bit about the progress that we've made so far. This is still a work in progress. The plan is not complete. But I want to give you a flavor of roughly where we're at and where we're making progress, so we can then start talking about what's next. So a number of different things are in the works around energy and greenhouse gas reductions. In particular, we're working with Train on an energy management system, which is going to yield significant benefits in that area. And I believe Train are at the back in the room here, so stop by and visit Train. We hired a full-time faculty member who you've heard from a little bit. Hello, Dr. Krista McKenna, who's going to speak shortly about the work she's done since she came to the institution, in collaboration with many of the other faculty here today. We also established a sustainability office. You've met Phil Berry already, who's a director we brought on board, so we could have that organizational structure to oversee sustainability at the institution and help build out a program and help support progress across the different operational areas of the institution. And then later this year, in the next couple months, hopefully, we'll be submitting our application to ASHE. So that's going well, we're on track. We think we have enough points for gold. It's like every day, right, Phil, it oscillates. It's like we're there, or maybe not. Or we're there, maybe not. So watch this space, but we're relatively optimistic. Minimum silver. Silver's easy for us, but we think gold is achievable this year as well. So we've got a lot of things that have been going on. This is just a flavor of some of the things that are happening. But what I want to talk about and use the opportunity today is to gather some input from all of you. So we as an institution are partway through a 2-year comprehensive planning process. This is a big deal for the institution. You may have noticed we have these beautiful buildings over at that end of the campus. We have our automotive building. We have our advanced manufacturing building. They are 2 examples of the things we built in response to our last comprehensive planning process that started around 2015. We identified a suite of very ambitious targets to change the institution, and we're at the point where we're just at the end of those plans. So it's time for us to determine what's the next big initiative for Pima. And we don't know what that will be. We're having lots of different sessions to hear input from different people. I'd advertised a Futures Conference, but we had it just a month ago. But next spring, we'll have another Futures Conference. I encourage you all to think about attending. But we're developing our education master plan, our facilities master plan, our new strategic plan, and more. And we want to ensure that climate action, sustainability are themes that inform the development of those plans. So in addition to our big picture academic targets, for example, where do we need to be for sustainability and climate action? And as with all elements of planning at the institution, the strength of our plans are based on our ability to get input from diverse groups, to generate ideas, share their insights, to help us as an institution think about where we need to go next. To which I need to ask you all to get a gadget. Your phone, a laptop, a Surface, whatever you might happen to have to hand, because I'd like you to all join into the Menti, because I'm going to be inviting your feedback in the next few slides. So any web browser will work. I believe there are QR codes. Oh, we have the QR code here, so you can scan that too. Or go to menti.com and type in the code that you see listed there. And I'll give you a moment to all get connected. Looking to make sure everyone's grabbing their phone, getting connected. Moments like this, I wish I had hold music, like the Jeopardy theme or something interesting for people to listen to. And I say that every time and I still haven't done it, so I've got to remember for next time. But let me, oh. There we go. All right, so I have 3 questions for you. So we're going to start with a big picture question. What's one way that you think climate action or sustainability should show up in our long-term college planning? Timeline for this is typically around about 10 years. That's the duration of our last major suite of plans. I'm really sorry, but that's the wrong code. Oh. All right, I'm sorry, we have the wrong code displayed. So if you exit out of where you are, and then you want to scan the code, ooh, where's the laser pointer? This one right here, we'll get you in. Alternatively, you can go to menti.com, you can enter the code 97282579. Oh, so that's the right code. This is the one over here, yeah. All right, so let's see what we get in. We'll pause here for a couple minutes so people can enter their comments. All right, cost savings from electrification and energy efficiency, absolutely. Capital planning for facility upgrades. Degree requirement, interesting, that would be a good one, wouldn't it? Public transportation, workforce development. Those of you from outside the institution, we have a very active workforce development and innovation team, and we've started conversations with them around sustainability in the workforce. Mr. McCabe is pretty chill. Shout out for Mr. McCabe, I know he's at the back. Hello. Let me see, need facilities to get more involved in working to make campuses more sustainable, energy saving, investments through treasuries, More solar panels and renewable energy. Wouldn't it be great if all our buildings had solar panels on the top? To include climate bills or acts in Congress and be aware of what our country is doing to combat, climate change. Require teaching on climate action every single major. That's a path we are starting down. Oh, yes. That's an awesome one, and one we're very passionate about here at Pima. Solar energy, more CAS faculty. I agree with that one too. All right, good. Sustainable campus, water harvesting, yes. Storm to shade landscaping, very good. Oh, more hands-on rather than lectures for the classes covering this. Budget for sustainability work and projects. Less single-use plastic. I've been on a bit of a mission in certain meetings to try and get people to not use single-use plastic. I have not been overly successful in those efforts, but I've been trying for a couple of them. Collaborate and be a leader among community groups in climate and sustainability. Encourage public transport. All right, good. Lots and lots of really good ideas here. Thank you all. So let's go to the next one and see what you think here. Actually, they're still coming in. I'll give it a moment more. Include indigenous knowledge systems in education, in environmental curriculum and decision making. Good. Outreach to community, create more awareness. All right, good, good. Let's try the next question. All right, so that's lots of good ideas showed up there. So let's try and narrow it down a little bit. If you could pick our top 2 sustainability priorities for the next 5 to 10 years, what 2 things? We saw a bunch of interesting topics on the last slide. CAS requirements in all degree programs. Good. Conserving more energy and reusing and recycling a lot more. Clean energy. Good. Water use and food insecurities. That's a big one, isn't it? In recycling and water, reducing waste, common themes. Certainly things that institutionally we could focus on and do better in. So emissions, integrating sustainability across the curriculum and research. All right, good. Ooh, someone used the M word, mandatory course in climate and sustainability for students. That would be awesome. All right, okay, good. All right, thank you for your input on this one. Oh, infrastructure that catches water and planting native plants. I totally agree around carbon neutrality. We've had some preliminary conversations internally about how we might get to that and what a timeline might be. I have a year in mind, which I won't mention because I don't know if others at the college agree with the year I have in mind, but it's not that far down the road. Okay, all right, I have one more question for you. Let's move forward to this one. So, how can we make it easier for students, employees, and the community to participate in climate action at Pima? What can we do? weekend field trips for extra credit. Start by being an example. More flyers and emails about opportunities. Oh, a joint task force. It's an interesting idea. More public marketing of current climate action activities. Pay us. It's always a good one. Free courses open to the community. Keep climate action in the news. Oh, more opportunities for volunteering. There's no shortage of things we need to do, right? I'm sure we can come up with a lot of those. More awareness programs in the community. Partnering with all the organizations here today, for sure. Free workshops and promoted cleanups. More advertising of opportunities. Oh, redesign the campuses to model and celebrate sustainable living. Grass looks great, doesn't it? But doesn't really belong here. All right, host regular events focused on climate action, sustainability, and environmental justice. More advertising. Embed climate action into daily routines. That's an interesting one. We have our Earth Day pledge coming up again soon, actually, where we try and do that. All right, good. Lots of good ideas here. Okay, good. This is great. Thank you all very much. With my planning hat on, and not my sustainability hat, I'll be taking all of the input from these slides and taking them back to the planning teams. I'm coordinating the comprehensive planning process, and I lead the strategic planning team. So every single one of these ideas is going to go directly into the groups working on the development of the next strategic plan. So you never know. One of the things you entered here might be one of the ideas that makes it into the next strategic plan, or might get operationalized through the Office of Sustainability. Some things might bypass the strategic plan and we'll just do them more quickly anyway. All right, good. What else do we have? Community college collaboration, more sustainable climate actions. All right, great, good. This is awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm kind of busy going around as many different groups as I can get to. Going, give me your ideas, give me your ideas, because our plans are only as strong, as I mentioned before, as the input we receive. And we are committed as an institution around climate action. So thank you very much for your ideas. And with that, if I'm remembering correctly, that was my last question for all of you. So thank you all very much for your time and for joining the event today. And I'll see you all at the various events this afternoon.
All right. So I just want to make one quick point for students here. If you thought about Nick's last slide about ways to get involved, I'm the honors coordinator for our West campus, and we have honors coordinators on every campus. And honors allows students to do all kinds of projects, service learning projects, community service projects, and many of our projects are geared towards sustainability both at the college and in the community more broadly. So if you're interested in honors, come see me at some point today and we can talk about that. So next I want to introduce my colleague and friend, Crystal McKenna. Crystal is the Earth Systems and Society Department Head and Climate Action and Sustainability faculty at Pima Community College. Her work focuses on designing experiential interdisciplinary courses that empower students to engage with real-world sustainability challenges. She is passionate about community-based learning, environmental justice, and creating pathways for meaningful climate action. Crystal.
All right, there's a clicker here somewhere. Thank you. I apologize for not introducing myself earlier when I was talking to you guys. So I have the opportunity today to tell you a little bit about my life's work. So I am the Climate Action and Sustainability faculty, and right now I'm the only full-time person doing this. But as you heard from Nick, Pima invested in me to come on and create classes that we didn't have before. So now we have a total of 7 classes in climate action and sustainability, and we're kind of rolling them out this year, and next year we're developing them for all modalities. And this is, again, a culmination of a lot of my life's work. So I have a PhD in sustainability education. This stuff has been living in my brain for about 10 years, and Pima gave me the opportunity to come here and spew it all out into the world, into reality. So here are some of the courses. There's actually a few that are not on here, one at least that's not on here, that are offered. And one thing I want to point out about these classes is we worked really hard to make all of these classes useful to anyone, right? I think the content is useful to everyone and anyone, but it also helps when they're transferable, right? When there's no prereqs, so everyone can sign up for them. And when they're open to everyone regardless of major or campus or modality or any of those things. So that was something that we worked really hard to do, and to just make sure that it was not just relevant to people's lives, but people's future careers, and that it could just be a foundation of wherever you have this interest, right? Sustainability and climate action is this like massive umbrella, right? And you heard even from the community organizations, there's kind of specialties within this. So we tried to create classes that would give a broad overview, but also some that would kind of specialize a little bit. So we've got these lab science courses. I'm going to talk about them a little bit more, but we also have these 3-credit courses that go into a little bit more about kind of society's interaction with sustainability. So things around food, urban sustainability, systems thinking. That's like my favorite thing. You'll hear about that a lot. And then Eric's course, which is Lit 227, Literature and the Environment. So what we tried to do here is just create a menu, and whatever ways that you are interested or want to engage in sustainability, we hope to have a home for you here. So I'm going to first talk about Geo 105, which is the only course that existed before I got here. So this is our climate change course. It's not a science course. So you see that it's a 3-credit course. So what we're learning about here is not all the intricacies of the science. So we do go into that foundation so that you understand it. But we really go into, how does this impact people? How do people impact it, right? And then what are our kind of strategies for mitigation and adaptation? And so we kind of start with like, here's where we're at and here's how things work. And we hopefully end up at the end of the course with, this is what we can do and this is how we move forward, right? And so a lot of these courses are designed intentionally to move us from maybe a place of coming in with a little bit of climate anxiety and moving us again towards that idea of climate hope and climate action and climate empowerment. So thank you for Charlie McCabe, who is the originator of this course. Yeah. For laying down this foundation. So this is offered in person at a couple of different campuses and also online. So we're really excited about getting that course kind of in front of as many people as possible. So then we have our next 2 courses are our lab science courses. And what we're doing here is kind of exposing you to sustainability in general, right? Sustainable futures, again, hopeful, not doom and gloom. And so sustainable futures, we get to kind of explore all of that environment, economic, and society pieces of sustainability and what's going on in our community, how we can participate in it. We had lots of guest speakers come in from our community organizations. And so that course just launched in the fall, and then in person in the fall, and then online this semester. And then our CAS 102 is environmental exploration. So this is kind of like a marriage of environmental science and environmental studies. And so there's a little bit of a distinction of that at the universities. But this takes kind of both understanding the science of the environment, but bringing that human element into it as well. So understanding how we impact the environment, how the the environment impacts us. You heard a little bit of talk about environmental health. We go into that a little bit and everything too. So those are our 2 lab science classes. So if you come in and you're going to transfer to a university, and no matter what major you are in, they'll be like, you have to take 2 lab science courses. Look at that, they're right here. So we designed these in such a way where if you came in and you're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm kind of interested in sustainability, you could just start getting your gen eds out of the way by taking some really cool sustainability classes, right? And then if you want to do that as major, we can talk about that, and there's some other classes and stuff like that too. So that is one thing that is really different about what we are doing here at Pima. Most other colleges and universities, they train specialists, right? They train the people who are going to go into this major. And what we're doing is something really different. We're trying to say, nah, we'd rather have this in the hands of everyone, because that's going to make our community stronger, right? And if we come out with some people who want to do this for a living, that's fantastic. But in the meantime, we need everybody to be aware of this. We need everybody to be informed. All right, so our next set of classes, again, is a little bit more of that kind of specialty flavor. So CAS 110 is Food, People, and the Planet. This was developed by Dr. Amarat Young. I don't think made it today, but we so appreciate her. And she's a professor in our sociology department. So you see a lot of this kind of cross collaboration here. Eric in literature, we've got sociology kind of popping up in here. So all of these courses are really designed to be very interdisciplinary and to pull from lots of different sources of knowledge. These classes, especially the food class, and again, we'll talk about the systems thinking class in a second, also, and the 2 before this, we draw a lot on traditional ecological knowledge as well. As a society, we would not be where we are today in our understanding of climate action and sustainability were it not for our understanding that came before us from traditional ecological knowledge, from tribes that have been on this land for way longer than we have. So that's all integrated into these courses as well. So Food, People, and the Planet, kind of understanding how you interact with your food system. Where does it come from? How far did it come to get here? Where does it go after you're done with it and you didn't eat all of it, right? All of those things. And a lot about food insecurity, how that impacts different populations differently, both in kind of a local context, but globally as well. And then our sustainable cities and societies. So this is our urban sustainability class. So what can we how can we have such large, dense populations of people that also can live a little bit more lightly? You know, what can we do in our cities to make them more livable, more equitable, and also have a lighter footprint? And so that's sustainable cities and societies, buildings like what JLL is doing and what Julie was talking about, all of those things. And then this is my baby right here, CAS 120, Systems, Logic, and Sustainability. If I could wave a magic wand and fix all of the world's problems, what I would do is have everybody take this class. And I say that because systems thinking is the foundation of really understanding sustainability. If you knew nothing else about sustainability, but you understood systems thinking and about how things are interconnected, how you can zoom in and zoom out, and how nothing is actually truly independent, and start to see leverage points. Those are opportunities for change, right? So rather than this kind of reductionist, I'm gonna look at a problem and I'm gonna like dissect it down to its smallest piece, systems thinking is really encouraging us to see the whole picture, the whole system, and then understand where the interconnections are. That helps us identify the leverage points, and that helps us identify how we can make change with the least, I don't want to say amount of effort possible, but like most easily. So if we target leverage points, that's how we can make meaningful change. And that really only happens when you've got that kind of big picture kind of thinking. And what I love about systems thinking is it's so applicable everywhere. So I want everybody to know it because it's great for sustainability, but it's also great for leadership, it's great for business, it's great for policy, it's great for law, it's great for education. I could go on and on because it just applies in everything. So that's a theme that we actually have throughout our courses. You'll see some of the student work examples in the back, and we map like everything. Like as we go into a new module, we're like, all right, let's just map this out. You know, one of them's on environmental health. What are all the things that impact you from the outside? Another one up back there is our West Campus system map. And just really understanding where those connection points are and being able to leverage change. So that's my baby, and that one I just want to get in front of everyone. Hopefully, business majors, everybody, right? Like that's just so important. And then the last one we have is CAS 290. This is CAS in the community. So this is our applied projects class. So if you have, if you're not in the honors program, and you have a project that you want to do, we have CAS 290 to do a project like that, and you can get credit for it. It's a mentored kind of applied projects class. I help you through it. We create a plan, implement that plan and everything, and it's a great resume builder, great thing to have on your transcripts and all of that good stuff. So that is, yeah. Okay, so that is kind of the overview of what we are doing in terms of CAS here at Pima. And then we also do all of these wonderful things like trying to reach out to you all. I'm so interested to know how you all came to find out about this event, because it's kind of a mystery sometimes on how we get this word out. I saw a lot of that in the communications. But also just kind of letting community members know that these classes are here, letting other students know that there are opportunities. What we've tried to do, and I encourage you during lunch, go see all the tables, that's what this is all about, but we've also made this room into a bit of a gallery. And so you can see a lot of what we're doing here in terms of student examples of work, in terms of these classes. I have posters around about the different classes, and really have an opportunity to kind of envision yourself maybe learning a little bit more about this and engaging in that. And one of the things, like I said, in terms of the general education requirements is that we've tried to set this up so that you could have a major, right? Like let's say you're majoring in business, you can kind of almost have, we're not calling it a minor because we don't do that here, right? But we're calling it like gen ed with a theme, right? So you have your major classes and you have that list that you have to take, and then come take sustainability courses for your gen eds, right? And then you have this kind of nice little balance of whatever your major is, and then you also have this little kind of expertise building in sustainability. And truthfully, that is, in my heart, what I believe brings the community forward towards sustainability, when everybody out there in every job understands how they can apply these principles out there in the real world. So I think that is it for me here. So thank you so much for having me. And we're going to invite our student panelists up next, so you get to hear directly from our students next. So if I can have Chloe, Mimi, Manon, Andrew, and Scott, if you can make your way up to our lovely little seating space here, we'll give them a moment to get going. All right, thanks guys. Andrew, are you here? All right, we'll go ahead and move forward with these guys here. Let me grab my questions. All right, so the students that you see up here today are students who have taken some of the classes that you saw. So here we go. So these students have taken some of the first round. They've been my experimental guinea pigs, I'm sorry, some of you, in launching these classes for the first time. Some of them have taken multiple classes across the CAS and Geo field, and they're mostly either my students and or Charlie's students, because we're kind of the ones who are getting this off the ground. So we have some questions for these students that we would like to do just to kind of hear their perspectives. and about this experience, because I think it's different when I tell you about my experience teaching these classes and what these classes are supposed to do, right? Versus them actually getting to tell you a little bit about their experience. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to facilitate some questions here. I'm going to toss it over to you guys. Anybody who wants to answer can. You don't all have to answer every question. So if you feel moved to do so, just kind of pony up to a microphone there and make sure we can hear your voice. So the first question I have for you is, and introduce yourselves as you begin to talk, and we'll go that way. So what initially drew you to enroll in a climate action and sustainability related course?
There we go. Okay. Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm at Pima East. I think, like a previous interest in this field, because I do want to go into environmental science and conservation. And I figured that like one of the best ways that I could prepare myself to like dedicate my life to something that I care about was like to start early in that education. So.
Hi, my name is Manon. I have a history of having traveled a lot as a young child due to my parents' work in humanitarian aid. And I have been able to have had the privilege of seeing how different people live around the world. And so that's driven me to want to do the same thing that my parents have done.
Hi, I'm Mimi. I was drawn to this course, well, one, because I needed a gen ed credit, but also I wanted something that I knew could help me in the long run. I knew chemistry or physics was not something that I'm going to need in my career, but learning about sustainability can always impact me in any area of life, so that's why I wanted to take these courses.
Hello, everybody. My name's Scott. I'm in CAS 102 with Dr. McKenna. I am an avid cyclist, hiker, backpacker, camper. I work at full-time REI Co-op in the bike shop over there. And so I went back to school last semester and decided that I wanted to get into environmental policy. And so, yes, did need the prereq, but as Mimi said, I didn't want to take chemistry. And so this was something that was exactly what I needed just to kind of get my background. CS 102, it does a lot of general background in environmental science, but also a lot of policy involved too. So it was a perfect class for me to take, not only for the credit, but kind of starting to get into my major as well.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to actually use that as a springboard, and maybe Scott, I'll start with you and you can pass it on. But how has your experience in this course been different from other courses that you've taken, and what surprised you or pulled you out of your comfort zone in that process?
Yeah, I think COS 102, it's labeled as a hybrid course. So, I saw that and I thought, okay, it'll be half online, half in person. But while there is stuff in readings and assignments online, we do meet a couple hours once a week on Thursdays, but the other half of that hybrid course is going out into the field and making observations. We have to do a lot of field notes and field studies, whether it's going to certain parks in Tucson or certain preserves and conservation areas like Sweetwater wetlands, for example. I was there yesterday doing an assignment. So it's a really cool class insofar as, you are in the classroom half the time and you are online doing assignments half the time, but you're also out in your community kind of learning about, how does Tucson manage and get their water? And so it's not just all in the classroom, it's all out in the field and getting to do some cool things outside of the classroom.
Awesome. Anybody else want to chime in on how the courses have been different than other courses?
I'll go first. Second, I guess. I'm just gonna pull this out because it's gonna bother me. One thing that was majorly different, bouncing off of Scott, was this integration to community. a lot of the time when you're looking at these like really sad climate change things and how the world is falling apart, it's nice to know that there's resources in the community that are doing the work that you think you're doing alone or reading about on your own. And so this course introduces you to those people and allows you to like see the world and engage with it through your community, which I love a lot about this course.
One thing that I really enjoy about the course is I'm a very visual person, and like applying what I learn. And something that so I'm taking it online, and even though it's online and you have like a lot of stuff to read about, you are still like encouraged to go out into your community and kind of apply everything that you're learning, which I think is a lot better for a student than have to sit in a classroom and just listen to like 3-hour lectures.
Another thing I really liked was that it kind of like expanded my worldview too. It wasn't just about like, I took like climate change, so it wasn't just about what I'm familiar with, like, you know, the heat in the summers, but also talking about how that impacts like other communities and how that's like something that we should really care about because it affects everyone.
Thank you, guys. All right, the next question I have for you is, did your courses change the way you think about your own role in the community or the environment, or how you see others' roles? So I think some of you kind of started to touch on that, but specifically your role or how you see other roles in the community.
Well, this time I will go first. One thing definitely changed, not necessarily my role, but how I approached myself engaging with the world. Along with CAS 101 and 102 that I am currently taking, I'm also taking Lit 227 online. And so I have learned a lot about how I incorporate myself in the world and how I view my connection with my environment, which I think makes you realize you are a part of a network and you're not just like doing things, you are benefiting everything, or you are being negative towards everything if you don't kind of correct certain things. And so I think that it's definitely made me reevaluate how I'm entering the world and how I engage with certain things. And I think that is really important. And seeing other people and seeing my community and how they're doing things to better themselves in our shared environment has definitely pushed me to do more. And I've started to notice when people are doing things and how they're doing them. So I think that's one major thing for sure.
Yeah, it also like just made me a lot more hopeful because like before, you know, like being involved in knowing like what's going on in like climate change and like bad things that are happening to the environment, it like helped to change my perspective to be like there is stuff that I can do, especially going over like how much we hit climate mitigation and adaptation. Like just giving me hope, like knowing that I can do something because like everyone could do something.
Yeah, I think for me, the big thing, I mentioned I'm an avid cyclist, but I kind of started to, as opposed to just riding recreationally, just kind of thinking about my impact on my community, I've started to commute cycling everywhere that I can, so going to work. I don't ride my bike to West Campus, but just that's a good example of looking at the bike infrastructure around Tucson. I think we have really good bones for bike infrastructure. I think I'd like to see it filled out a little bit more, as many other people do. But bike commuting it's become the best part of my day, is getting on my bike to work and then afterward riding home. So I'd like to advocate more for bike infrastructure in Tucson, and that's something that I've kind of learned about myself in this class.
Perfect. Okay. Next question I have for you, and it's a statement then a question. So these courses blend science, ethics, policy, and personal reflection. How did that interdisciplinary approach impact your learning experience?
Yeah, I think it was perfect for me because approaching this knowing that my strength is the more policy side of things and the political science side of things. I was very self-aware that, you know, with those strengths, I don't really have all of the background knowledge in the science aspect of things and what goes into affecting climate change and things of that sort. So the blend of that kind of accelerates my strengths and it buttons up my weaknesses as well. And so for that reason, I'm very grateful that it's kind of all intertwined into one class.
For me, that blending was essential because a lot of like these science courses, or if they're not humanities courses, they tend to leave out this kind of like human side of it, of like how sad it is to actually see and how angry you can feel. And this really brings in and like makes science, which doesn't always is so connected to human growth, feel even more connected and make you actually realize how much the world has an impact on you. And so I think that having that connection was really important for me to actually engage with the learning and see how that science affects the human side and how the human side affects the science side. And so that was really important for me.
Echoing everything that's just been said and also what's been talked about with everybody else who's been on stage prior to us, it's just like there's so much involvement, and it's not just science, it's not just political. There's so much that works into this like whole conflict. And so just being able to learn about every like branch that works into this like web has been pretty like mind-opening. And also kind of hopeful because it's not just one person, but it's everyone.
Thank you, guys. All right, so some of you have completed a class already, and some of you are in the middle of it, so I understand if some of you have more to pull from than others, but these CAS courses often include these hands-on activities, whether through field observations, journaling, citizen science, or other creative projects. Can you share a favorite one that you did and what you feel it taught you?
This might sound like kind of simple, but there was this like water journaling exercise that we did where I had to like go through, I had to document how many gallons of water a day I was using, where like that was concentrated in, and then also looking for like leaks or like ways that water might be being like wasted in my home. And that just like kind of like made me realize like how much I can also do like in my personal life, and how much things might seem overlooked. And then also it's like kind of satisfying because you have that ability to make that difference in your life.
Mine was also on water, not that one specifically. We had to kind of choose a location around town and create a rainwater harvesting system. And I thought that was pretty cool because while you might know some of the stuff that you do at home, trying to be able to apply some of the stuff that you learn in class to like other places. Like for example, I did a high school that was near my home, and I thought that's like school campuses are a great like start for using some of the stuff and systems that we learn about in our class, and I thought that was like one of the coolest projects we had done yet.
My project is the same one as yours. I love that, and I didn't choose a school that was near me. I chose my house, mostly because the rainwater harvesting proposal, my parents were already kind of going through it. They were trying to create infrastructure in our yard to have rainwater harvesting, so it kind of, that allowed me to get a lot of insight into how it actually happens, because a lot of time when you don't know step by step, you just think, oh, it just appears. And which is not true, and you have to put a lot of money and effort into it, and it helped me learn a lot about how to like what I would need to do to make sure that I'm being sustainable and how much money that would cost. And that's an important thing to know when you're talking about sustainability, is how much it actually does cost. So I think that project was really substantial, and I think both of us pointing it out shows that.
I mentioned I love hiking, and we do a lot of projects, field notes, field observations, and I mentioned I was at Sweetwater Wetlands yesterday, learning about what they do over there, which is a great spot. If you haven't been, I highly recommend. But my favorite field notes project definitely was our biodiversity field guide project we did. And what I did is I just took my notebook on a hike that I would regularly do on the weekend, and I hiked Wasson Peak in the Tucson Mountains. And, you know, I think there's this preconception a lot of people have that, you know, we're in the desert, there's no life, you know, it's very arid and dry, and there are no living things. And, you know, you go out there and you pay attention to it, because you have an assignment where you have to identify a handful of different species. But just kind of opened my eyes to how much life there is out there in the Sonoran Desert, and the biodiversity that we do have. And so documenting that and then going back to class and learning about how fragile these ecosystems are, and how important biodiversity is, was a really cool way for me to, again, take an activity that I normally do and enjoy and kind of getting more specific and seeing how fragile biodiversity is and certain ecosystems are, particularly here.
Great. Yeah, there's a phrase I use sometimes for these classes where you go from seeing the things around you to recognizing the things around you. So a lot of the topics in class, you have this baseline level of understanding, and then they dig a little deeper, and then they start to see that, you know, everywhere out in the world, which is pretty cool. All right, so I have 2 more questions for you guys, and then if anyone in the audience has any questions for them, you can use that little question box at the bottom of the Menti there, and submit your questions that way, and we could probably also get some people from the audience if you're not on the Menti. But all right, so now that I've planted that seed, okay, so for students who are considering taking a CAS course but aren't sure what to expect, what would you tell them?
If you're looking for a fun course where you're outside, like taking place outside of the classroom, being more connected to your community, understanding this like whole subject on climate change and how it's influencing not just you or the world, but also your own like community as well. I would definitely recommend this course because, as we've all mentioned, it takes you outside of just your classroom. If you're taking it online, it takes you out of your house. It also kind of like forces you to interact with other people besides just your professors and your peers. And it just makes you a lot more aware of your surrounding.
I think one thing I would tell people is very similar to yours as well. We're like the same person. Would be it's a class, but it makes it more than a class. You are learning no matter what now. When you leave your house, when you leave the classroom, you view everything and you're able to take it in and learn more about it, not just because of the stuff you're going over in class, but because you start to notice these things about your community, about your environment that really make a big impact on you and who you are. And I think that's why everybody should take these courses.
Those systems I just heard you talking about?
Systems and systems thinking, it's very important. And I think that's a major thing for why people should take this class and what they should expect from it, is to always be learning. It's fun.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's definitely a class that you get out as much as you put in, just because, you know, half of it is independent stuff outside of the classroom, in the field. But I do think it's really important and valuable to learn about, you know, the food systems in your city, and especially here in Tucson, learn about our water management and how we harvest it. It's knowledge that I think every citizen should know, whether or not you are going into environmental science or anything in this world. It's just good knowledge to have.
Scott's really good at planting seeds for me for the next question. All right, so many of you have hit on this already, but I do just want to, because each of you come from a slightly different background in terms of how you might apply this in the future. So why do you think it's important for students from any major or career field to understand the concepts of climate action and sustainability?
I think like the most obvious answer is that it affects all of us. It doesn't just affect people who are in environmental science or like those really like specific fields. It's also like the way like we'll have to adapt in the future, and that will have to be every profession, every career, being prepared, and then also like we need everybody to be able to take action.
I think also, along with that, it's important to know how you can help your environment and help your community and implement it into your career, not just for your life, but so that you can take these things and you can go into your future and you can share that and you can educate other people who weren't able to take these courses and make sure that like you're always making a change, even if your career isn't exactly connected to sustainability, but it can be. You can make it.
I'm having, oh, sorry, go ahead. Did I interrupt anybody? Okay. I was just trying to pull up questions from the audience. I clicked one and it went away, but it was, how did you find out about these courses? Was it kind of accidental, or did you seek it out, or did it come to you from a particular source?
Yeah, I'll answer that, but first I'll say, you know, regardless of your major, this is a great class to take, right? It's all around us and it affects every industry, right? Real estate has a lot of things that they need to focus on in sustainability. Also, if you're pre-med, we've looked at heat maps of different toxic wastes in the city of Tucson, and the biggest spot is right by Banner Health. So it's interesting to know that and to maybe look into that as a pre-med student. And those are just a couple of examples of how it's good to know, regardless of your major, how sustainability affects and can be affected based on what you do. And how I found this class, I think PCC has great advisors, and my advisor, Michelle Savage, I told her that I wanted to get into environmental policy and transfer to the U of A and find a major that can help me through that career path, and she recommended this class. She said not only does it take care of your lab science credit, but it is exactly what you want to get into. So it was kind of a perfect find for me.
Shout out to our advisors. Anyone else want to share how they found the class or stumbled into it?
So I have always been surrounded by humanitarian aid work because of my parents. And I wanted to do a degree in environmental science, but I've always been told that science is all you can do. And I'm not a huge fan of chemistry and biology and all that. So I found this course kind of just by branching out and looking outside of just the sciences, and found something that I was interested in, environmental studies, and I thought it was a good course because while it does imply some sciences, it's not just like, you know, strictly science.
Awesome, okay. We have another question up here. So how can PCC further support you as you engage in climate action in your life and your career?
Sorry, that took a second to think of an answer, guys. I think it can further support me by kind of implementing more sustainability things, which they're already doing, and they're rocking it, and they're moving forward in it, and that's awesome. And so I think that is having these kinds of things where I can come visit Pima and see community and talk to community and find those resources. I think that's really the most important way that they can do it, is by continuously having these events and introducing more people to the community so that it all becomes like an interconnected network of sustainability people, which is awesome.
Yeah, and by like emphasizing community like they're doing today, like when the community gets stronger, like everybody else gets stronger. And so, you know, just being supported that way.
Yeah, I think we're off to a great start. Today's a great example, and finding Dr. McKenna, somebody who's been looking for the opportunity to do this and build this department at a college, this is a great opportunity for her, and just continue to build off of it, right? I think this department can grow a little bit more. I know Phil's around here somewhere. I think he's an office of one right now, and it'd be great to see that continue to grow as well. I know he needs some more support there. But again, we have a great base, and I'm excited to see it grow a little bit more and expand.
Thank you. All right, I know I'm putting you guys on the spot here, so I apologize. They're doing it. Blame them. No. So this one, I'll direct this at Mimi at first, just because this was a very specific conversation that we had in our CAS 101 class right at the end of the semester, and we have fishbowl debates, which kind of means that there's a small handful of people kind of in the middle of the classroom doing the talking with each other, and then there's the rest of the classroom on the outside that's doing the active listening, and then we rotate in and out from being in the inside circle and the outside circle. So one of our last fishbowl debates was, you know, is AI a tool for innovation in climate action and sustainability, or does it kind of do more harm than good? So that's very similar to this question here. What concerns do you have with the environmental impacts of AI or other technology, and how would you like PCC to address these challenges? But you can just generally talk about the conversation that we had.
That conversation was very interesting and is burned into my brain, because it was a lot of debate of whether AI is going to take away jobs or if it can help change the approach to how we're handling the environmental crisis. One thing is, I don't love AI, mostly because I never remember what they're called, but they're computer generators. I can't remember it, where they hold all the servers, use so much water to cool them. So that's really a scary thing of how much that can destroy our environment. But also on the other side, AI provides a lot of chances to learn and to use it as like a tool to further more research and organizing data and all those kinds of things that would take people days or weeks or years to do, and it does in one question or two. So a lot of that is really important, but also is like, when do we choose technology over human understanding? That was our main topic point, was where do we draw the line? And do we have AI robot doctors doing surgeries, or do we actually save that for somebody that can do the surgery and knows the human body and isn't just scanning the body for things? That went into like a whole thing. But I do think that for me personally, I want to change how we approach AI as less of a answer to solutions, but as a tool of how our worlds will develop. And that's very hard to do, but hopefully with the right systems thinking, we can do that. I don't even know what PCC would do to address this, so sorry, I'm gonna leave that part unanswered.
I have pretty grave concerns about the environmental impacts of AI. I think particularly here in Arizona, as Mimi indicated, how much water these chip plants use and these servers use. And an Arizona example is the chip plant that just opened up adjacent to the Colorado River. I've heard the number, but I don't want to guess, but they are using a gross amount of water pulled from the Colorado River, and it creates a huge inequality of resources. For example, there's Navajo senior citizens that have never had running water in their life. The city of Phoenix, city of Tucson, you know, there's municipalities in Arizona that depend on the Colorado River for water. And it creates a lot of inequalities. I think what PCC needs to do to address is just, you know, further educate people, right? 2 weeks ago, I didn't know that, and now I do, and that's important. And education can lead to activism. It can lead to people pursuing certain careers to help mitigate these problems. And so continue to educate, particularly what's going on in our community. As the youth speakers noted today, there's a lot of things going on nationally that are of grave concern, but right now it's more important than ever to focus on what's going on locally here in Arizona, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, there's a lot of like negative impacts from AI, especially now that it's in like every app. Every app has some form of AI. Like every time you make a Google search, now it has like such a greater impact because the AI overview is always at the top and it never has anything good to say. I think that like changing how we approach it is really important because instead of it's like, use Grammarly to like, so you don't have to read anything that like a person took the time to write to you. Like I think it's more important to like use it as a tool. Like for example, I think last month, I don't remember what organization it was, but they like used AI to like map out like rooftops and like potential for solar energy, and then like the like humans like ran those numbers to like try to figure out how much like clean energy we could get from that, and like how much that could lower like global temperatures. And so I think approaching it in that way, and where it's still like human effort going into it, but using it in a way where we can do work faster in certain projects. But I do not think that it should be in like unavoidable and in everything, because now it's every time we use technology, like there's always that greater environmental impact.
Yeah, so one of the things I think you all would agree with is that these classes kind of force you to sit in the uncomfortable space of the gray area. There just aren't black and white answers sometimes, right? And sometimes we really want to just say AI is bad or AI is great, you know, whatever it is. But I think it's really important on those critical thinking skills to understand these, you know, gradients that we exist in. All right, thanks guys. The next one that they have for you here is, do you know any climate change skeptics in your age group, or let's say even in your circles? And what do you think makes them skeptical of climate change? If I can add one little trail to that, do you feel more empowered after taking these classes to engage in these conversations?
Me again, guys. I don't know if I know anyone specifically, but my circle is very small, so it's different. But I do think I have engaged with people older than me that have been skeptic of climate change. That sounds really weird, but skeptical, thank you, that's what it is. I think I never used to engage in those conversations because it always felt like they were unmovable. They had one decision in their mind and that was gonna be it. Because you can tell yourself lies about the environment so easily because you can just tell yourself that it's always been this way, but it hasn't. And to look at that and to remember that is really impactful. And I think having these conversations with anybody is really important. And I definitely, after these classes, I feel like I know what I'm talking about just a little bit, that I can engage with it and feel strong in my points and not feel like I'm making up gibberish that makes sense only to me. So I think I think this class helped for sure.
Yeah, someone from a rural community who like moved up here, I know like a lot of kids my age, you know, very skeptical of climate change. And I think that that's not, I think it's mostly due because, like, you know, the intensifying, like, politicality of it, I guess you could say, and like, if you, where like, especially in rural communities, where if you are skeptical of climate change, you know, that means that like, you're a part of this certain like political group that is like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, you know, you're not like some city folk, right? You're like a strong like cowboy, but I think like once you know, like they have those resources and actually look into them, they tend to like change up pretty quick. Yeah, and that's, you know, education on it is just like super important.
I think more so than skeptics, I think I know and see in the news and on social media more people that aren't necessarily skeptical, but just don't prioritize climate action and sustainability. And I think big examples would be exploitation of like resources, right? When some people prioritize profits over environmental impact, when it comes to drilling for natural resources, or agriculture is a big one. Pesticidal runoff, waste runoff from farms getting into clean drinking water, and ecosystems in the area. So skepticism is something I see, but I think a bigger issue is the not prioritizing any climate action and sustainability, more so.
I just want to add one more thing off of you, Scott, is a lot of it is like this complete unawareness, this lack of education, a lot of things that until it affects you personally, you don't want to make any changes. A lot of this is seen in mining. Nobody actually understands what goes into mining, how much water goes into mining, until it's their water that's being taken, and their little area of land that's being depreciated. And so I think that lack of like engaging with that information until it directly affects you is kind of the problem. You should be looking at it before it directly affects you, and that's where people skip a step and don't do that.
Yeah, that human element, right? Yeah, recognizing and empathizing with other humans, even if they're, you know, even if you're not the one being directly impacted. Okay, I have one more, and then we'll keep going here. And down, okay. All right, nope, I thought there was one more. For the students, there we go. Were you able to make connections to other courses and disciplines?
So I'm in the CAS 101 course right now, and I'm also taking a geography class. And I've also taken previous courses that were either linked to like cultural geography, and I'm also in an anthropology class right now, which all basically cover the same similar like subjects on climate change and how it affects different communities, not just here in Tucson or in Arizona or in the United States, but around the world, which I think is really cool. And that's why I think you need to also take more than just sciences to understand all this, because as we've covered before, like everything works together. It's not just here, but it's everywhere. And as mentioned, as well as that you are not aware of it until it affects you, which is why I think it's important to learn about not just around your community, but everywhere else, and not just in your own country, because that's not it. There's so much more out there. So yeah.
I'm going to mention Lit 227 again, because I am obsessed with literature and writing, and I'm also taking a science fiction and literature course, and it's crazy to see the interconnectedness of literature and science and how actually important it is. Most of science fiction is about AI and technology, and how that is going to affect humans. And it's really interesting because now these things that were so distant, 2001 Space Odyssey was about an AI computer screwing over humans just because of some directions. Sorry if I spoiled. And that like immediately connected to what I was learning in my Sustainable Futures class. And it was really interesting to see how literature, which can feel so separate from science, interacts with our environment and how we understand our environment. And I think that's really important just because of me as a writer. I love to know that I can connect with other people through writing about the environment, and I can connect with the environment through my writing. And so I think that is really important, and I loved that I was able to do that at this school, so.
All right, guys, we have a token of our appreciation here. So first, can we give them a wonderful round of applause? I swear that I did not script any of their answers. And thank you guys for kind of doing this on the fly. I think there's some important questions from the audience and everything. So we have lovely little plaques with your names on them as tokens of our appreciation. And I just want to tell you each that, it has been amazing to hear your perspectives. It's been a pleasure having you in these classes. And I just am so thankful to have students like you taking classes like this and being able to share their experience with others. So thank you so much. If you'll come up here and get your plaque from me, give them another round of applause. I also want to, yes, thank you. I also want to give a big shout out to Chuck Wacker, who helped us create these here in-house. So those are all, those plaques are, the wood is sustainably sourced and the plaque is actually made here at PCC. So what we're going to do right now, this is like, we should all capture this moment in time where a program is actually running just a little bit ahead of schedule, which never happens. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to give you a bathroom break, which we weren't sure if we were going to be able to give you before lunch. So what we have is a couple of things. So right outside the door to your right is a water refill station if you need more liquid that isn't coffee. And then down this hallway here outside these doors is the bathroom. So please check that out. If you're a community organization and you haven't set up your table yet, you can do that also. And then we are going to meet back here at 12 o'clock sharp. So you have like 21 and a half minutes. Set your timers. Enjoy more breakfast and all of those things. Network with people around you, walk around to the gallery, whatever. Come back here right at 12 noon, please. Thank you so much. The danger, even in classes, if you give them a bathroom break, will they come back? All right, come on in, come on in. Come join us, find a seat. Fabulous, fabulous. We are going to feed you soon, I promise. That's the next step. Come on in, come on in. Here we go. All right, as you find your seat here, we're going to give you the next serving of the teasers for the tabling. So again, kind of take note of what people are doing, what organizations are doing. I'm going to give a reminder if any of our organizations have books to recommend, please also mention those. Speaking of books, there's a lovely little table outside the back door there that has some of our community org recommended books on the cart, and many of those are available at our library to be checked out. Any community member can get a library card for our PCC library and check out those books, and many of them are also available in electronic form. So please check out that table and check out our recommended reading for that. So with that, we're going to start on our 12 p.m. Community Organization Spotlight. So just like before, each group is going to come up. They'll have about 2 minutes to tell you a little bit about their organization, how you can get involved, and where to find them out at our lunchtime tabling time. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about lunch after we are all wrapped. So, Mary, come on up.
Hi, everybody. Happy almost lunchtime. I'm Mary Presiunas. I'm archaeology faculty here at PCC and the director of the Center for Archaeological Field Training over at the West Campus. And I have Ileana here with me, a student. I'll let her introduce herself in a second. But just a little bit about our program. We provide students with hands-on, experiential, field-based learning opportunities. So our students get to get outside, actually do real archaeology. And so they tend to have a lot of fun, right? Unless it's 110 degrees, and then it's not so fun. But we are also very heavily focused on the conservation and preservation of archaeological sites. So we work with a lot of different community partners. We work with local and state and federal agencies and tribal groups to try to help protect sites, to identify impacts that are happening to these sites, disturbances, and try to help prevent that. So today we have some hands-on activities. We have information about our program, but our hands-on stuff involves flint knapping, which is the making of stone tools in the way that our ancestors used to make them, as well as making some stone pendants. You can make a pendant and take it with you and wear it. So come check us out.
Hi everyone, I'm Ileana Rosa Pacheco. I am a field student here with the archaeology program. I have also gone to the U of A and I developed some scholarly skills there, but I think that Pima really reinforces and teaches you maybe like some things that you might be missing. I've learned a lot of field tools such as excavation, survey, and things that I wouldn't have known if I didn't come. And I've also made a lot of good connections with faculty that I think were missing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Earth Month. I'm Adriana I'm the vice chair of the City of Tucson Commission on Climate, Energy, and Sustainability. We're a group, well, I don't want to toot my own horn, but we're a group of extraordinary people with professional level expertise. We've all been appointed to our positions by city officials to work on this commission to advise mayor and council on policies related to climate resilience, sustainability, and we work with them on projects, provide them feedback on plans. So Plan Tucson, One Water, we worked with them to give them feedback and to kind of massage those plans and programs. How am I on time? Okay, feels like I've been up here forever. We actually have 3 vacancies on our commission right now. So if you're interested in learning more about, what we do as a commission, feel free to stop by our table. But I want to share a few projects that we've worked on that I'm really proud of. A couple years ago, mayor and council came to us asking us as a commission to research the feasibility of microgrids in the city of Tucson. We created a subcommittee to do that research. We wrote a report. We presented it to mayor and council. They took that information in and they used that to, come to a determination about whether microgrids are feasible in Tucson, which we were excited about. Right now, we're working on, we have a subcommittee that's working on evaluating the current franchise agreement. That's something we're working on right now. We have a subcommittee dedicated to community engagement and communications. But yeah, we have a lot going on. Like I said, if you're interested, we have 3 vacancies. If you're not interested in being a part of our commission, that's okay too. We invite community members to our monthly meetings to give us feedback on the work we're doing, the work the city is doing, and any opinions or suggestions you might have as a community member. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Brianna. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. I just kind of want to give you guys a brief overview of our organization in case you're not familiar with us. So we originally founded in 1975. We started out with 1 employee and 1 volunteer, and now almost 50 years later we have 7 total locations that help us serve our 5 communities, and we see almost 100 volunteers every day. So these locations range all the way from Tucson, Green Valley, Nogales, and they help us distribute food. We also have our Care Dad Community Kitchen, which offers a culinary training program, and our Farm and Gardens, which offer educational resources and help families in our community learn how to garden. So if you're interested in learning more about us or want to volunteer at our warehouse or in our garden or in our kitchen, come stop by. We'd love to talk to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Wyatt. I am the Direct Action Co-Chair of UAZ Divest. We are a student-led group on the University of Arizona campus trying to get them to divest from fossil fuels. The university currently has around $118 million invested in fossil fuels, which is like an astronomical amount. But the thing about it is that it goes beyond just that $118 million, because like, it is universities investing in these stuff that like props up other investment firms investing in them. And if all universities divested from fossil fuels, it wouldn't really be profitable for other people to do so. So it does go beyond just that $118 million. Right now, we are working on an Earth Day plan. So if anyone wants to come to the university on Earth Day, that would be a great way to show support for us. Other than that, if anyone is looking to transfer to University of Arizona, we're always looking for new members, so yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, good day, everybody. My name is Keith Lerman. I'm here representing Sustainable Tucson. Hopefully everybody's heard of this. We're a grassroots organization. We've been around since 2006. We're focused on resiliency and sustainability within our local region, focused on advocacy, community engagement, and making people aware of what's happening. Our mission is to build a resilient and equitable community that will last into the future and will sustain us as well. We have a local spotlight that we host every month. It's called, what is it called? Sustainability Spotlight. It focuses on an array of issues related to, could be climate change, could be mining, could be forest management, could be gardening, etc. And we have a program that's actually tonight. It's going to be through Zoom, and it's about mining in the age of climate change, and it's going to be focused largely on the Santa Rita mining that's being proposed and fought right now. See, we also have other things that we do. We have lots of committees that we run. If you're interested in finding out more about them, you can visit our table on the main walkway that goes north and south out here. And some of those are building resilience within the community, zero waste committees, water management, energy transformation, and more. And some of the others, some things that we've done recently that you might not be aware of, but we're pretty proud of, is we put in some community garden pollinator gardens. In fact, we just completed our last one this past weekend to promote pollinators, and by the way, they were all native plants that will serve the insects, our birds, and our soil as well, which is super cool. So anyway, that's us. Come see us, and we would appreciate you coming to sign up with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Hi, everyone. My name's Marissa. I'm an environmental educator with Watershed Management Group. I feel like we're speed dating, like sustainable nonprofits, like, please give me your volunteer labor. But no, that's what I'm gonna say. If you aren't familiar with Watershed Management Group, we're a nonprofit on Speedway and Dodge. And our main mission is to restore flow in our historic creeks and rivers. So the Santa Cruz River, we need to hold that hope and act with hope, like strong hope that will be restored. So I'm just going to list off a few ways that you can get involved with us. If you have kids, we have a Family Saturday every month, free programming for ages baby to 12. If you are a nerd and you like to go to free classes after work or on the weekends, we have hydrate classes all about water conservation practices. On average, a Tucsonan uses about 80 gallons of water per day, which is better than someone in Phoenix. I think that number is about 130 gallons. Yeah, if you like beavers, we do an annual beaver survey, both in Mexico and Arizona along the San Pedro River. Lastly, Mimi, a couple other student panelists talked about rainwater harvesting systems. We have a very robust, maybe what we're known for, our rainwater harvesting certification course. We offer that 2 times a year. And it's a really hopeful, inspiring space. I just finished that course as an apprentice, where you get to meet people from around the world in Arizona, but yes, like around the world, come to study how we're capturing water. I lied. The last thing I want to plug for students or just anyone wanting to make a career change, we do have an apprentice program. You don't have to have a formal background or a degree. You just want to be willing to learn in community, and that is, a paid apprenticeship program that lasts 9 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa.
Speed dating. Hi, I'm Amy Amoroso. I'm with Sky Island Alliance, and I have a question for you. Who in the audience has been up to Mount Lemmon? Raise your hand. Yes. All right, that's a Sky Island. When you go up to Mount Lemmon, you see the diversity of landscapes, and that creates a diversity of animals. And we live in an incredibly rich, diverse ecosystem. We have jaguars and coatis, and we work in the region called the Sky Islands region, which is 55 mountain ranges, Mount Lemmon included, all the way into Sonora. We're a binational conservation organization, and we work to preserve and protect and connect these special biodiverse areas. We have offices in Tucson, Montezuma, and staff in Naco and right outside of Bisbee as well. We offer internships. We offer a lot of volunteer work. We have 800 awesome, vibrant volunteers that work with us every year, and you could become one of them and meet like-minded people and get out there and pull a rindo from Native Springs. Or if you're kind of an introvert, you can download an app and go hike in the wilderness and monitor springs for us. Or if you like to do a little bit of heavier work, we're road rewilding. We're putting roads to bed. We're making them back into the wild on the national forest lands, and we do camping weekends. We also do camping weekends in Aravaipa. I have a list at our table of 4 volunteer opportunities. There are many, many more on our website. And I will also talk about one other one that we're trying to get help with is we're working with NAU on a carbon emissions tracking app where you can spend about 2 to 5 minutes standing at a road documenting cars, what type of traffic goes by, and NAU will calculate that into usable carbon emissions data that can influence policy. So if you want to learn more about that, visit me at the table. I'm right out here, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. Contestant number 9. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Hi, I'm Kasha. I'm our marketing coordinator with Sonoran Institute. For those of you that don't know, Sonoran Institute is a 35-year-old nonprofit based here in Tucson. Our work in Arizona largely focuses on re-establishing flows in the Santa Cruz River, but we work throughout the Colorado River Basin on river restoration, policy work with municipal leaders, and down in Mexicali. Sorry, I was talking without breathing. Down in Mexicali, we have a restoration site called Laguna Grande, where we host Sábados Familiares, where families can come and actually kayak on a section of the river that was run dry and is now 8 miles of revegetated land with all native plants. We have a nursery and have planted over 200,000 native species of trees in the area, and we have added several birdwatching stations there and at Las Aranitas wetlands, which is very similar to Tucson's Sweetwater wetlands, but the Mexicali version. Fun thing that we're doing actually in this room at the end of the month, April 29th and 30th, we're doing our Santa Cruz River Research Days. So we've got researchers from all over the region talking about their work on the Santa Cruz River, art, culture, community, science, basically any topic that has anything to do with the Santa Cruz River. Those 2 days we'll be talking about it here. It's free, virtual, and in person, and it is in English and Spanish at the same time, so it'll be super cool. And the day after, 20 people can come with us down to Tubac for a nature tour at the new conservancy down there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. The next part is what I consider to be the most exciting part of the day, both because you get to eat and because you get to talk to other people, so yay for that. So if you are a community organization with a table, on the back side of your table name is basically some tickets for your organization. If you RSVP'd ahead of time, you should have received one of these red tickets upon entry, and then if they told you to come back at lunchtime, that's now, okay? So if you need a ticket, meet us at the registration table. If you have a ticket, we're gonna go outside here, and essentially we're gonna make like a NASCAR loop. Okay, so we're gonna go out the patio, we're gonna talk to everyone, we're gonna go around the sidewalk, we're gonna talk to everyone, we're gonna come up the covered patio, and then ultimately you can come back in here. So take your time, we have until 1:30. Please be back in your seats at 1:30. All right, go eat, have fun, thanks.